Something's wrong, and no one is ready to admit it. 8 days before the first private laps in Barcelona, teams that should be leading the 2026 revolution are still trying to get their cars to start. Literally. Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, each facing mounting technical issues. Integration failures, thermal misfires, broken energy deployment logic, and now, the paddock is silent. Not one team has shown a full lap. No launch cars have run publicly. And the Barcelona test has been sealed behind closed doors. What's about to unfold isn't just testing. It's crisis management. And according to internal sources, the first few laps might expose the most fragile grid Formula One has seen in over a decade. Because if the wrong car fails in front of the wrong cameras, the season might fall apart before it even begins. What's building right now in the background of Formula One feels different. Not just the usual preseason nerves. Not just teams hiding parts or playing with sandbags. This feels like something else. A deeper kind of unease. The kind that comes when even the people in charge don't know what's about to happen. Because this time, everything has changed at once. The 2026 reset is not just a new era, it's a full system wipe. New power units, no MGU-H, tripled electric output, and drastically reduced combustion power. Cars are now running close to a 50-50 electric combustion split, which means more software, more energy strategy, and more room for failure. Even the aerodynamics aren't familiar anymore. The old DRS is gone, replaced by a full active aero system. A constantly shifting balance of drag and downforce, adjusting wing positions every few seconds depending on car positioning. It's fast, but chaotic. And the slightest miscalculation in setup or timing could make a car undrivable. And all of this, the engines, the aero, the hybrid systems, must work perfectly, in sync, from day one. No manufacturer has run a complete race simulation. Some, like Red Bull and Honda, are still resolving energy mapping conflicts. Others, like Mercedes, have reportedly struggled with power unit integration so severe, the engine doesn't fire when mounted in the car. The fear isn't just about reliability anymore. It's about basic operability. And that fear is being hidden behind total media blackout. The decision to make the Barcelona test completely private, no fans, no cameras, no press, wasn't just a logistical choice. It was a protective measure. Because no team wants to be the first to fail, in front of the world. So now, all we have are rumors, silent garages, and a paddock frozen in anticipation, afraid of what the first laps might reveal. The test hasn't even started, but the cracks are already showing. At Red Bull, there's quiet panic. The Ford-built ERS, a centerpiece of their 2026 engine, has been inconsistent in back-to-back simulations. Under braking, it over-recovers. Under acceleration, it fails to deliver the mapped output. In real terms? That means the car behaves one way in the sim, and completely differently in real conditions. They've delayed their systems integration twice. Not officially, nothing ever is. But the assembly lines have been reprioritized. Hybrid mapping sessions have replaced track modeling. And the phrase, deployment override, has started appearing in internal documentation. Mercedes isn't far off. They've built their 2026 package around maximum electrical efficiency. Lighter packaging, aggressive battery layouts, and low-drag bodywork. But now, sources suggest the power unit is running hot. Too hot. And when pushed to race conditions, it may breach thermal thresholds within the first 10 laps. Ferrari, though more stable, isn't in the clear. They've gone with a heavier combustion block and a conservative hybrid cycle. It runs. It lasts. But it doesn't recover energy at the rate they need to compete over a full stint. The result? A car that stays on track, but runs out of push. And outside the top three, the stories are no better. Haas is reportedly facing software bugs linked to control unit synchronization. Sauber hasn't completed a full systems fire-up. And Alpine, despite having switched to Mercedes power, is still behind on chassis electronics integration. But no one's talking. Because to admit weakness now is to invite disaster before the first lap. So they say nothing. They wait. And they hope that whatever breaks doesn't break in public. Here's the part no one will say publicly. But insiders have known for months. This nightmare wasn't caused by a mistake. It was caused by a decision. Because the truth is, the timeline for 2026 was never realistic. The FIA locked the rulebook too late, left too little time for live testing, and demanded a complete engine revolution, while reducing track time and wind tunnel hours. In 2022, during early concept validation, multiple teams and engine manufacturers submitted internal warnings. Reports that clearly stated, the new hybrid structure, especially the elimination of the MGU-H, and the tripling of the MGU-H load required a minimum of 12 extra months of bench testing to be race-ready. Those warnings? They were acknowledged, then shelved. Because the narrative had already been sold. Sponsors had been briefed. The sustainability push was too far along. And F1 couldn't afford to backpedal. Not after branding 2026 as the future of motorsport. So, instead of realism, they chose optics. Deadlines stayed locked. Regulations were set in stone. And now, the teams are left to build around rules that look good on paper, but haven't yet worked in reality. That's the twist. The chaos we're seeing? It's not accidental. It's structural. This isn't just a technical nightmare. It's a political one. And it's one the FIA can't walk back. Because doing so would mean admitting they pushed Formula One into a reset. It wasn't ready to survive. What's most unsettling right now isn't the failure. It's the silence. No press statements. No clarifications. Not even a casual, "we're on schedule," from the usual voices in the paddock. And that's not because things are going well. It's because every team knows exactly how fragile their situation really is. They've seen the thermal spikes. They've watched control units reset mid-cycle. They've run simulations that end in failure before the lap is even finished. And instead of fixing those problems, they're managing them. Quietly. Internally. Behind sealed factory doors. Red Bull has reportedly paused engine development briefings. Not for lack of progress, but because they don't want to document just how many adjustments are being made, hour by hour. Mercedes canceled an internal track simulation 2 weeks ago. No reason given. But telemetry logs show that deployment wasn't syncing with acceleration curves. The system worked on the bench, but failed in chassis integration. Even teams like Aston Martin and Alpine, who aren't expected to lead, are holding back from public updates. Because right now, even admitting you're stable puts a target on your back. If one team shows confidence, they'll be the benchmark. If they falter later, they'll be crucified. So instead, no one speaks. No one leaks. No one gives the media a story. Because silence has become the only form of protection. And that silence? It's not just ominous. It's coordinated. Because if just one team breaks ranks, admits the car isn't ready, or that key systems failed under test conditions, it forces everyone else to do the same. And if that happens, it's no longer just a nightmare for one garage. It becomes a full-blown crisis for the entire grid. If Barcelona confirms even half of what's been hidden so far, then 2026 won't start with a race. It'll start with a collapse. Because this year, success won't be measured in pole positions. It'll be measured in systems that simply stay online. Red Bull might still have the fastest chassis concept, but if their Ford-based hybrid can't deliver full power over race distance, then every lap becomes a liability. Mercedes might be the most experienced with hybrid setups, but if their new cooling concept doesn't hold, they won't last a full stint under green flag conditions. And Ferrari? They may have played it safe. A heavier engine block, a conservative deployment cycle. But that might end up being the smartest call on the grid. Because in a season like this, raw speed means nothing if you can't reach the finish line. The midfield, Aston Martin, Sauber, even Haas, could become unexpected contenders. Not because they've built something revolutionary, but because they've stayed inside the margins. They've built for consistency, not glory. And that may be the one quality this season punishes the least. But the real shift will happen behind the scenes. Once it's clear that not all systems are stable. Once early DNFs or component failures expose the reality, the political games will begin. Some teams will lobby for rule adjustments. Others will push for clarifications. And a few will start asking for deployment allowances, claiming that safety or software issues demand flexibility. And if the FIA gives in to that pressure, if even one exemption is granted under the radar, the entire grid order becomes negotiable. Because this isn't just about who built the best car anymore. It's about who can bend the rules without breaking the sport. And in that environment, the fastest team doesn't win. The smartest one does. So now, we wait. Barcelona will be silent. Private garages. No live data. No lap broadcasts. Just 3 days of quiet, while the sport holds its breath. But even if nothing leaks, even if the teams keep the lid on, the truth will come out. Because once these cars reach Bahrain, once they face full race conditions, no more hiding is possible. If the systems fail then, they'll fail in front of millions. And that's when the second wave of the nightmare begins. Because a failure in Barcelona can be managed. A DNF in Bahrain? That becomes a headline. And when those headlines start stacking up, when power units shut down mid-race, when energy systems drop deployment at the wrong moment, when top-tier drivers are forced to retire due to overheating batteries. It won't just be a team's problem. It will become a Formula One problem, a governance problem, a credibility problem. And the pressure won't just come from inside the paddock. It'll come from outside, from media, from sponsors, from fans who were promised a future-ready Formula One, and may end up watching it break down on lap 5. So yes, the nightmare has already started. But the worst part? It hasn't even left the garage.